you can change your perspective of what's coming at you and trying to shift that perspective a little bit and think about like, all right, at this point, I have this happening. I can't change this. It is already what it is. So how do I deal with it the best I can with what I have?
Welcome to the Lara Jane Layton Show. This podcast is for you, the person who keeps putting others first. Your self-talk has held you back. You no longer need to take a second seat. Let's explore ways to overcome self-doubt. You can silence that inner bully voice and achieve your full potential. Here's your host, Lara Jane. Welcome to this show, friend. My new best friend, Fedra, is with me today. And we're going to talk about expectations. I know that's that thing I wish could just go away and we never had to do it, because it's those expectations that can take me from having a really good day to immediately turning me around backwards. And it's like, okay, what just happened? And you get up in the middle of the night and you go into the bathroom and you sit down on a toilet that doesn't have the seat down. That's an expectation gone wrong. Had an expectation I could just sit. So we learn to deal with them. We learn to overcome them. But sometimes these expectations are kind of hard to deal with. And so when life gets hard and the expectations are in the way, how do we find peace? And how do we get to that point where we're living for now and not what just went wrong 5 minutes ago? So we are excited about this. But before we get started, we're going to get a quick word from our sponsor. Come back. We're going to help me let go of some of these expectations in my brain. So we'll be right back.
This is Adam Adams, co-founder of Optimized LLC, where we take the guesswork out of your health. If you're feeling exhausted, struggling with weight, or just not feeling yourself anymore, your hormones might be the problem. And that's why we test, not guess, analyzing your blood work to pinpoint exactly what's holding you back. At Optimized LLC, we help you rebalance your hormones, boost energy, and reclaim your life. Don't settle for normal. Aim for optimized. Just go to optimized.com to book your free introductory coaching call. It's a free call to help you take the first step toward feeling your best.
All right, Fedra, the information about you is in the show notes. I'm so excited to talk to you today. So when we come to expectations, and I expected to come into the office and have 30 minutes to go through emails, and all of a sudden I sit down and the first thing on my email list is a meeting that starts 5 minutes ago. And I got to run, and I'm in the chase. So sometimes expectations change immediately. How can I live in the more present and not have these things throw me for a loop?
So thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here. Tell me about it. I know exactly what you're talking about. It happens frequently and randomly, and things can go wrong very quickly sometimes, and it's really hard to get back on track. So what I kind of suggest is like two ways of looking at it. There's what's coming at you, and then there's how you see it. So what's coming at you is unexpected, and how you see it is how you're going to be able to get through it, right? So first off, you can change your perspective of what's coming at you and trying to shift that perspective a little bit and think about like, all right, at this point, I have this happening. I can't change this. It is already what it is. So how do I deal with it the best I can with what I have, instead of thinking how it should have been, or I really wanted it to happen this way. And just remembering that as you're going with it and how you're just looking at it, it can change how it could be towards you or how you feel about it. If you try to look at your perspective and say, well, at this point, it's already done. And if the meeting was 5 minutes ago, I'm still going to have to do it. And I'm going to take the best out of it and try to put a little bit of a cheer to it and kind of be, frustration is not easy to let go of. I'm sure that won't be that quick, but it's definitely going to give you a place to explore, why am I so frustrated? And that's the second part where it's internal, right? It's how we usually deal with things. Do we look at the glass half empty or half full? Is that our normal thing? And it's oftentimes, if you look back at how you look at things and the way you probably were raised, people around you, maybe looking at it that same way, that negative slant. And And that's really contagious and it's easily passed down from parents' generation down to you. It's just you then have to explore like, how did this happen? Why am I looking at it from this perspective versus like, okay, let's go with the flow. So the way you look at it is, uh, why am I always looking at what the worst case scenario versus best case? Why can it be better? What if the things do work out way better than I expected? What if I'm just always sort of having this weird anxiety around what ifs? And if I actually kind of say, all right, worst case scenario, best case scenario right now, what are the pros and cons of this? I'm like, actually, I can only do so much with what I have. I'm just going to do it this way and see how it turns out. And you know what? I know that maybe right now this is hard, but maybe if I just go with it and try to solve the issue, it might not be as bad the next time that it happens again. I know this sounds crazy, but it's doable. It just takes practice. So I've gone through some things that made me just sit with things that are not comfortable or not fun. And I have to just take it in or be patient and not plan and just go with it.
How do you sit with it when, I mean, in a loving, kind way? Like sometimes I'm so frustrated that I just spiral down, like it just digs me deeper and deeper and deeper. And it's just over something stupid. So, how do I learn to switch the way I'm thinking about it so that I can be at more peace?
Well, most would say just take a deep breath and just step back and look at what's going on. But it's also sometimes, looking back at it afterwards and seeing how that turned out and how long for you to kind of deal with it. And maybe it took you a half a day, 2 hours, 30 minutes, however time it was, then you could learn like, oh, this is how much time it takes me to get through something that doesn't work out the way I would have wanted to work out. And if I can look back and change that time frame and say, I could do this in less time, but how? Okay, here's how. I'm going to end up just exploring like, why do I feel the worst things could happen instead of the best thing could happen? And how do I put that into my day? Trying to more often than not shift in my perspective and the thoughts that go through your head, catching them.
When
Oh,
you do this process, do you write it down or you just do it in your head?
oh, I do both. First is in my head, then I write it down and I kind of explore like my way of expecting something is going in this direction last time. But if I actually kind of look at it and look at the pros and cons, it wasn't as bad. And what could I do differently the next time something comes up? Now I'm recognizing like, oh, I have this slant, this perspective, this expectation. That's internal voice, that ego that comes in and gets really upset with you. And you having patience for that, patience for yourself, and recognizing that it's gonna take some time. But writing it down, it actually makes you slow down the time and become more present and mindful of what's happening in that time frame. And so that feeling is not as overwhelming the next time because you're catching it faster the next time it happens, by writing it down.
So let's pretend like every Thanksgiving, somebody in the family gets in a fight and we have to sit there and deal with it. So now I'm planning this trip to go to Thanksgiving, whatever holiday works or doesn't work for your family. And it's like you start dreading, oh no, they're going to start fighting. What am I going to do? And is preparing like that good for our souls? Or is it better because, you know it's going to happen? You got to be ready. Is it better to be ready or surprised?
That's a good point. Okay. So there's a psychology aspect of this, and then there's like a manifestation kind of aspect to this too. So if you kind of if you pre-plan about it, it's to some extent is helpful because it kind of gives you aware of the potential things going to happen, but at the same time is not that helpful because you're already kind of putting it out there for it to be potentially possible because then you might be putting it into your universe for it to take place. It's weird, but people say that. And so there's a level of like a little planning goes a long way, but not too much of like worrying or thinking about it. But just considering like this is a few things that could happen. This is how I could deal with it, and not then let it go, because then the rest of it is just you worrying about something that's not going to happen. What if it turns out better? Like I was saying earlier, what if it doesn't go according to how you expect? I know that sounds crazy. Every year this happens. Every year my family fights. There's no way this is going to be different. But if you kind of explore the possibility of like, if the way I look at it or the way how I handle it, maybe it'll turn a little differently than the last time. Maybe how I approach it, instead of worrying of like, oh, gotta get in the middle of it and probably have to mediate or have to like go outside and not talk about it and whatever way you used to do it. Instead of thinking like that, think about like, well, what would be a more sensible, more clear way to deal with it? So maybe I need some help. Maybe I need to get someone in there to work with me on like, how do I navigate? Like, there's delegating, but then there's also navigating. Just who else can come in with me and trying to change the subject when this gets a little tough and not get too far in there. And or bring up like, well, we only get on once a year. Let's see what else we could do besides this time that what we do. You know, just switch it up, shift it. The energy itself can change if you go into it differently for yourself. And if it happens, that's also if it happens in your family, is because everybody in your family is also thinking the same way and they're used to that same dynamic. So everybody's gonna like go follow everyone else. But if you change it and maybe like shift it, maybe they could try to shift it. Not drastically because they're gonna look at you weird, but just a little bit for them to see like, oh, you know what? You're right. Why do we have to do this every time? Why do we have to always go in this direction? Why don't we just try something different? Give it a shot.
Just give it a try. And I do like when I know that I've been uncomfortable in a situation before, I like to plan ahead. Like if this came up again, how would I respond? Someone's starting to do something that I'd rather not be around. Am I going to go get a drink? Am I going to walk to the restroom? Am I going, what am I going to do to give myself that moment to get out of the emotional wheel and give myself a break of peace? And so planning a response in advance doesn't hurt. But I always have that same thing that you said is, am I now affirmating that I'm going to have a bad day and I'm going to have to mitigate it? So what am I creating by doing that thought process ahead of time? In my head, I'm being prepared. So I don't have this, I'm going to get uncomfortable. I'm going to sit there forever and not, it's like, okay, plan a response where you get to go ground yourself somehow, some way. And that way I'm at least armed with the right information when I walk in. And if it never happens, I'm not disappointed. I'm happy.
Yeah. Yeah. Just enough, plan ahead just enough where it doesn't go over, where it doesn't go to the point of like your fears are not taking over. It's now planning, not looking for doomsday. It's just a matter of the basics of, okay, well, best case, like worst case is too much. Why don't we just look at what if the issue is something like this and just what would you do with that? Like you said, walk away, breathe, take some time to yourself to regulate and come back. That's very important. But don't go to the point where you're now, expecting it and that you never know how it could go. So always have that perception of maybe if it goes better, what else would it look like? And how would that make me feel? And how positive that would be like for me to want to go to this event with my family and enjoy it. And maybe that would generate to everybody else too. Like that's the key, is it not only shifts yourself, but try to get that energy out to others to also have them try to start looking at it differently instead of how they always look at it, like dreading it.
Do you have any personal experiences of reframing an expectation that has helped you get through something that had been tough before?
Yeah. Yeah. So basically there's times where I could see something coming up in my life that's like a potential, uh, like I'm going to rent something and I'm not sure if this rental is going to work out. And I'm sort of expecting it to, but it can go many different directions. It may not, it might just fall through. But the way I look at it now is it's sort of out of my hands. I've done whatever I could. I've given whatever needed to be done with it. And I'm letting it kind of take its course and just allowing it to happen. And I mean, the universe is going to give you what it's going to give you. And then all you could do is address it when it comes to you. So trusting yourself to know that as it happens and as it comes up, you can make it change, or you can deal with it, cope, and get through it as you have already many times.
You
And
use the words trusting yourself. What does that look like? I mean, how do you learn to trust yourself?
oh, well, that comes with experience. You have to go, you know your life, you could look back and we have a tendency to be biased towards what hasn't worked for us or what we haven't done. But if you actually look back and look at all the things that have worked out and you've come through and survived or overcome, or it's that ability to recognize your strengths and highlighting them for yourself, to remind yourself of your capacity and your capability. Just like, despite maybe shortcomings, you have then overcome other things, but you don't tend to see those. You tend to see the negative things. For some reason, that's just sometimes we're wired that way. But if you kind of remember and remind yourself, that's when you start to trust yourself. You're like, wow, I've gone through that. I've gone through this. Look at all the things I've done to come this far and how it turns out so much better than it has. So, like, that means I'm I'm capable, and I could do it. I can
You
keep
know,
doing it.
yeah, but if you think back, that survival mode, that why do we look for the bad things? And that's what kept us alive. Where do
Yeah.
the bears hang out? Where do the tigers hang out? Where's the big gullies that you fall in and you can't get back out? I mean, those were things we needed to remember to avoid them.
Yeah.
We don't have as many of those real physical threats that we could have had back in the day. But we have a lot of emotional threats that come our way. And we do the same thing. It's like, I do not want to feel degraded again. And that person that's going to come and tell me how bad I am, I'm going to put up this wall or this defense. So we still have that I'm in danger feeling, but we don't need to never go in that one cave because there's always a mean bear. That's gone. That part is there might be someone who's not as nice, or there might be an area of town you don't drive into because of it. But those things are built for our protection. But we don't always need to be protected.
Yeah, totally. But that's what I think unfortunately sometimes happens. Sometimes maybe random events in our lives that are very drastic, and that sets our nervous system to get a high. And that, probably some level of trauma coming from it. And, that's what do they call it? The fight or flight. So, but if you could recognize that that was an incident that happened randomly in one part of my life that I overcame, but it's no longer in my life anymore, and it hasn't happened. Anything like that has not happened. And if ever I've gone through it, I've dealt with that, and I could overcome it if it happens like that again. But for now, I'm ready for I want to go to remembering that good things can happen too, and peaceful times can be available to me. And so going back in that mindset of what if the shoe falls, and that's that's going to keep you in that same nervous system. And you need to continuously remind yourself that that's not my perspective, how I look at things from now on and how I project out for potential positive things to come around can also shape my life. And if I keep going back there with what happened there, back all the way when I was 10 or whatever, I'm going to keep my nervous system there instead of remembering that I'm here with all these tools that I've gained and the potential of positive, good things that could come into my life. And then push that forward, like affirm it positively and remind yourself that you're capable And there's ways that you remind yourself by looking at those things that have gone better and you have overcome, also hard, but you just have to practice. Then you can move forward and knowing that as it comes to you, you can handle it and just like put on the glasses of like, what if good things can be possible? My mother was, you know, I had no idea, but she was anxious most often. And that's her nervous system. So I picked that up with her. Didn't know that. Now I'm like, oh, she looked at it from that perspective most often than not. And it didn't help. So now I'm like, what if I didn't have that? What if I had a different perspective? And I look at it as actually that may have been her life. That may have been what she's gone through, but it's not mine. And it's not going to be my kids. So I'm going to shift it from that.
And as we're talking, expectations aren't only negative, they're good too.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be a sunny day today, and now it's raining, and now I have to change all my plans. My wedding's got to go inside, or, whatever it's ruining for you. Or I'm camping, and now I'm in a gully of water because I didn't pick a high spot. These are expectations. I expected it to be warm and sunny, and now it's not. Or I expected it to be bad and I prepared for it and it didn't end up that way. Either way, expectations can catch us off guard, whether they're
Yeah.
overly positive or overly negative. There's really, in this world, I don't know how to get rid of an expectation, because when I order groceries, or I hope that my milk's always in stock or whatever your item is. Just can't imagine a life without them. And I mean, as
Yeah.
much as I want to get rid of them because they cause such pain and sorrow and fights within a family over and over again, or even with your bosses, I expected you to be on time. Well, I wasn't. So there's that defensiveness when we don't meet expectations. And there's the elation when we do. But as both are either of them good for us when we have that expectation in the first place?
I mean, I think that's a natural tendency, honestly. I mean, we
Yeah.
do are like what we are looking at all the time. It's like constantly your brain is just making something of what's there in front of you. That's a judgment of like a shape and size and how it's supposed to look. And the way you look at it, though, the way it's colored to you or the way it's maybe the event, like, 100 people go to an event, they go to see someone speak. And some of them say, wow, what a great speaker. And then some of them say, whoa, I don't know. She, kind of went off there or it didn't seem like I didn't relate at all to that. Well, whatever it is, everyone's going to have their own perception projected onto that event. So you're bound to have an expectation to some level to judge and, evaluate something. But the key is looking at it and thinking about why do I look at it like it's glass half empty than half full? And that you can change. You can change that over time. And it takes, so the expectation to change it, like, why I have to have it? I don't want it. I want to get rid of it. That again is expectation, right? So instead of thinking of like that, look at it as I'm going to have this negative perception, but if I actually acknowledge that it's there and like explore where it comes from, maybe the root of it, or is my family always looking at things half empty? What happened? Why did it start in that direction? Was there like a traumatic event that passed in generationally from my family down to have maybe it was so difficult for them to go through it and then maybe they never were able to, and then unfortunately the coping mechanisms never come down to you to be able to get through these things, and they're always not looking at what if the worst thing could happen and then you pick it up. But if you kind of go back there and explore this instead of being shy from it and understand where it comes from, then it's in your hands. Then it happens from time to time and you can catch it and you can shift it. You can start saying, I don't want to keep looking at it like this. I can see that I'm doing that, or the people around me are doing that. How do I start shifting that by reminding myself that I could choose differently? I can approach things differently and I can acknowledge things differently. Eventually, slowly, this will shift for you. It takes very slow, subtle, but maintaining way of becoming a bit more positive, a little bit more optimistic, a little more like, oh, actually, I do notice that even though these things went wrong, this went right and that went right. And the good things happened this here. So then you can start to change that.
Yeah, one of the things that was running through my mind is these things that are difficult are really making us strong. And maybe we don't want to be strong sometimes. Like, I don't want to go lift 100 pounds today. I just want to lift 10. But it's going to happen. But it's those deepest, hardest, most challenging moments of my life when I reflect back on them were the biggest shifts, the things that propelled me into a new way or a new direction. And you go, oh, thank you. Like,
Yeah,
thank you. Like, it was not easy to go through at the moment, but you look back and you go, okay, it was worth it.
right.
That was life. And I
So
think
maybe
some
it
of
was
it,
there for a reason. That was
yeah,
it. And maybe that's there to teach you to be less like that.
right. But it's like we may not feel it at the moment. And that's where that self-reflection and thinking about it and planning and setting up your boundaries. If something happens every time, a boundary isn't to say, Fedra, you can never step over this line again.
Yeah,
A boundary is for Lara Jane to say, hey, Fedra, you're getting close to my line.
right.
A boundary is for me to protect myself. It's not to not allow other people over. It's how am I going to respond when it happens? And just knowing that just because I set a boundary doesn't mean it's never going to get crossed, but it means that you now have the opportunity to implement that thing that you played with. My expectation was that you never crossed it, but you just did. And so I planned ahead. And now I'm just going to politely say, this is more than I can handle in this situation, or whatever words you choose. And I'm going to not engage. You know what?
Yeah.
Why not? Someone told me the other day, you do not have to ever give a reason. Just say no or just say, and I started thinking about that and I was like, just say no. I tried
Mhm.
it and they never even asked me for an explanation. They just took it. Went, oh, I'm always trying to soften it. Like, I'm not saying no because I don't want to. I'm saying no because I don't have the time right the time. I have other priorities going on right now. And so I always try to give myself an excuse. So why are we always excusing instead of just this is where I'm at?
Yeah. I'm going to go back to that again because what happened is that whatever experiences you had in the past, however your parents were towards you trying to get what you wanted or making your choices or owning something and they didn't respect that and passed them and told you what to do anyway because it's my way or this is the house or whatever the way they pushed that, you learn to say, it's not okay for me to have those boundaries, or I can't have my own space and have some level of respect around it. And so, but again, the way it came from the past, it pushed you into this space of like, also the trauma that open up boundaries and you come way open, and that's not healthy. So, it's closing up a little bit to remember that you can't take everything in and you can't please everyone, and you have to have boundaries to be like securing yourself first, then others, then that would help a long way going forward in addressing something that could come up. Exactly. And you just have to remind yourself like, yes, you have these tools. You can say no. You don't have to avoid it just because something happened in the past and you learn to avoid things. You can actually start changing how you address it by setting these boundaries, as you said. So, 100%, it's very important to know that and know that, like you said, it may not be actually respected by others that you said with, but it's a start. The little steps, the tiny steps, that little things that could come up, and practicing with those things that you don't fear as much, and setting those boundaries with them. Then you build this internal coping mechanism and little self-regulating system that says, I did that. Look, yay. Okay, next one, bigger one. Oh, I'm going to set boundaries with my boss now and see how that goes. So it's little bit by little bit, you're pushing yourself to learn that you can address things and assert yourself in a healthy way. And people it will start to actually respect you more instead of what you had expected from the past.
So we've got the idea of something didn't turn out like we wanted or like we had thought. We're going to examine it, think about it, uh, decide how, if we choose to make a response for it, and then be ready. What is there other steps that we need to do to be prepared for the tiger that's going to come around the corner?
Why do you keep going there? There's no tiger. There's a cat. A little orange cat, maybe a kitten. So, you know, um, I think for the most part, we talked a lot about perspective, change, boundary setting, taking that time to yourself and breathing and being mindful of your space that you need to leave if you have to. There's no reason why you can't take that time away. And other ways to address something that could come around the corner is also to trust yourself. Really, really, really important is to know that this is it. Life is a game. You are coming with different things coming towards you in different times of your life. And it does have sometimes negative things happen. But if you kind of start exploring how you address them or the way you address them, and like I said, building that internal self regulation by going at these little things that you're afraid of and doing those things until it gets like you are addressing the bigger ones and then getting through that by reminding yourself that you're doing great. You actually are more actually stronger than you know, and you can do it. Keep that positive mindset as you're going through it. Then once you build through and assert yourself and set those boundaries, and people are like noticing, like, oh, she's not the same anymore. She used to be like this, but now she doesn't let go or put up with this thing. Then you see how the world around you changes the way it addresses you and how it respects you more. And then you won't be afraid of that tiger coming around the corner because you know you got it. You did it. You have
I,
to do it.
I am prepared for him.
Exactly. Like I said, it's a kitten. So
Yeah,
you got it. May have seemed like a tiger, but it's actually, you know, those roars are not going to scare you as much as you thought. So, and you got plans of like what to do with him just in case he comes back.
Okay, I think we can do this. So we're going to just really create that perspective that I've been through stuff like this before. I can do it again. And know that when it surprises you, it is
It's
just,
to learn.
yeah, I'm going to figure out a way through this and put it in my tool belt for next time.
Yeah. And you're learning, you're growing. That's how it is. It's just the other way to do it.
Learning and growing. Oh, can we stop
Oh,
growing?
I know. I know. I know.
Oh,
It would be nice to have a nice season of sun, not too much rain. That's good.
not too
But
much rain. I guess it depends on where we live. Or we just stay in the house. Never rains in the house.
well, I don't know about that. You gotta get some sun from time to time. It's good for your balance. Find the balance.
It is. Balance is amazing. Fedra, why don't you share with our friend a little bit about you, how to get a hold of you? What's your life passion?
So I'm a mother of two girls, and I'm a therapist working in the Bay Area, and going on about my life as usual with a lot of work nowadays. And how to find me is, just look me online. I'm on there. Just Google my name. It'll pop up. And my office is in Danville, and I work from online and in person. And I have a open schedule from time to time. I don't take as many clients. I try to balance my life too. And so, yeah, don't be surprised if I have room and time for a new client. So, Yeah. And what else? I enjoy my life so much now as it wasn't compared to the past because I had learned a different way, not from books, how to cope better. So, and I'm happy. So,
I love it. What's that one thing we should try this week? With all the stuff we've talked about, what's that one thing you think would make the biggest difference for our friend?
okay, here it is. Uh, the world has a lot to do with whatever sometimes we see and perceive the worst case scenario. Shut it down. You don't need to be a part of any of that. If you don't feel like to, you don't have to. If you can, then don't. Like if you just can shut it off and turn it off and be away and go somewhere where you can, and half an hour to yourself somewhere where it's peaceful and it's quiet, make that a regular thing. Consistently have it in your schedule because of what it does, it helps you regulate your nervous system. As you have something regularly taking place, you're expecting it to happen. So you're looking forward to it and it helps you. So don't make it random and time to time. Make it a thing. Make it a positive and keep your boundaries around keeping it. Don't
Just
settle for like, no, I can't because this time I have. Well, obviously things happen, but try your best to keep it to yourself as a promise to make sure you do it at least once a week.
so put it on your calendar, schedule it, and worst case scenario, only reschedule it. No
Yeah.
canceling.
Yeah. Yes. Unless it's, I mean, I'm projecting positive things. You can have it. We're gonna make it happen. It's gonna happen. So, and keep positive around it. That's the key. It's really, really important. And I think you have no idea how much if you perceive it that it won't, it will, it may not. And if you actually think that, of course it will. And I have it, and it's a good time. Maybe I need to shift a little bit, but it's gonna make it. I'm gonna make it happen. I'm gonna put the money and the time aside to do it consistently for myself.
I love it because we do need to put ourselves in the driver's seat and move on. So not let all
Yes.
these other things hold us back. So
Yeah.
push that gas pedal. I love it. Thank you so much
Yes.
for joining me today. I have
Same.
really enjoyed just chatting with you. It's been beautiful. So, friend, I am not a licensed medical or mental professional. I'm here for entertainment. We're not here for medical advice, just people who have been down a road and want to help you down your road. If we can shine a light, just let us know. We'll be there for you. Thanks for joining and stay tuned for the next episode.
Are you tired of waking up exhausted? You are not alone. If you're looking to take your life back, let's start with the simple step of adjusting your self-talk. Stay tuned for the next episode with your host, Lara Jane. Remember to follow the show so you don't miss the next simple step that you can use to feel more confident. And please leave an honest review.